Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second webinar. This time is Mastering the Database Building with Automation and AI. For those of you that missed last month when we were talking about the ICP and how you can utilize automation and AI, find it. There is a video somewhere behind in this conversation. But this is our second part of the digital outreach mastery. Today, I actually have on the call me and Natasha. Natasha is the CEO at BSB Solution. Natasha, hello.
Hi, Dancho, and thanks for everyone who joined today to watch our webinar.
Perfect. And then you have me. My name is Dancho Dimkov. I'm a sales consultant. And this event is actually organized in partnership with BSB Solution, with Dancho Dimkov Consultancy, and Balkan Digital. So the topic for today is to figure out how to do the database building. I mean, I know we all do database in the B2B world, but isn't it time to see how it can be upgraded from manual toward the AI world? So I think we have a really nice topic to cover for today. And I'm just looking on the other screen if the sharing is good. Yes, so everything should be fine. Today we have a nice agenda. Maybe Natsha, you can tell us a bit more on the topics that we're going to cover today.
Yes, of course. So as you said, we are going to the next step of the outreach process, which is following the ICP research and identifying the ideal client profile, and that is the database building. And in this webinar, we'll cover three main topics, but within those topics, we'll actually dive into a lot of details for each one of them. The first part that we'll cover is how important is the database for your B2B outreach purposes, and how you can implement it within the framework that BSB has actually created for this whole process. The second topic is how you can use different database building tools that can automate different parts of your database building process. And the third part is how you can use no-code automation tool for database building that can actually summarize all of the different tools into one place and smoothly automate the whole process from the beginning to the end. So
Oh,
that's
nice.
what we are talking about today.
Perfect. Perfect. So we start with the basic frameworks, we go toward the automation, and then we go toward the tools, and we finalize with the automation parts.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, three simple topics, but before we dive into it, I think that we had to establish some common framework on what are we talking when we're talking about database building and stuff. And I'll try to be as short as possible because we covered the database building in Sweet Leads, the book. And based on the book, we had a really simple, straightforward process for database building. I mean, we called it nectar collection framework because of the bees and how they go from a flower to collect nectar. In this case, it's a few simple steps. It's like, yes, you actually need to prepare for the database building. And through the database building process, you're actually like, well, let me identify the companies that I need and make sure that they are good companies. Then once I identify the companies, let me find which people or which positions within those companies are a good fit for me. And once I have the people, then I need to find their contact information, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's email, whether it's phones, whatever. And from there, you can start looking at how can you do the lead automation. And of course, you need to have quality control in order to make sure that you don't have wastage, in order not to have a big waste of the campaign. Now, a step further toward this was stretched a bit, so we can go into a bit more deeper on the framework of the database building, is that usually in the preparation is data needed. Many times we collect everything that we find, and it's a lot of effort, and if you're doing it manually, even automated, there's so much wastage of irrelevant data. So within the preparation, the first step is, well, what do we need? In the database, sometimes we only need, like, I need the name, the surname, their LinkedIn, what's their position, and what's the company. Many other times we need 25 additional fields, like are they connections, are they not, are they active, are they second tier, third tier. But without knowing what you need, you're going to collect too much garbage. The environment setup was actually to prepare what tools are you going to use, how you're going to use it, in what flow, so you can actually start with the preparation. During the database building, it's like, well, which sources are we going to use? It's like, are we going to use, I don't know, Apollo or some other platform? Are we going to use Sales Navigator? So deciding which platforms are going to give you the right data is pretty much important. I mean, we had a bad case where we tried to find yoga studios on LinkedIn. That failed miserably, only to realize that, well, yoga teachers don't really have a lot of LinkedIn accounts. And then Google Maps is actually a better source. And once you identify the source, you need to figure out how you can qualify to make sure that the companies you're collecting are good. And then it comes to the data enrichment, where depending on what information is available and what is not, you need to know what kind of information to collect. So I'm keeping it short on the framework. On the quality control, yes, when we work within the EU, we have to look at the GDPR, and also on a quality control, especially in the email campaigns, you need some deliverability test, like verification of the emails. Are they correct? Are they not? Because you don't want you don't want all the campaign to fail because you have a lot of invalid emails. So I said in short, so I cannot do it shorter than this. But it was important for us to set up the mindset when we're saying database building, is that we define what type of companies are a good fit. We define the sources where we're going to find them. And then we start finding the right companies, then looking a step deeper, finding the right positions, and then finding their contact information. And I think that this is the guideline for this presentation in how we go deeper into different steps of each. I think that the next one was about database building tools. Natasha, should I stop sharing my screen so you can take over, because I know you did a lot of research on the tools?
Yeah, of course. So before actually going into the tools, I would like to again briefly share that how important it is to have a high quality database, because that can impact like the whole outreach success that you're further then going to do. Because if you have poorly built database with low quality contacts, then you are risking that the whole conversations or the response rate of your campaigns will be very low. On the other end, you are risking to damage your reputation. And as you said, if you have like unverified email addresses or wrong data, it can also damage your company domain and so on. So overall, having a really high quality build database is really important for this whole process. And of course, building well, like 100% accurate data takes a lot of time. If you follow each step manually and you make sure that each company is the perfect fit and each contact and so on. And the purpose actually of this webinar is to try to optimize or automate some of these processes to some extent, so
Yeah.
that the process can be efficient, but at the other end, it will be also providing a high quality data at the end of the day. Yeah, I think you shared that before. So can I share my screen now?
I will stop sharing. And by the way, I mean, if there are any questions, they can just start sending it in the comment section, that we can actually look at it after at the end.
Yeah. So yeah, here we are. My point was that in
Not sure,
terms
you're
of
sharing the wrong screen. Sorry.
what can you see?
Yeah, now we can see the database building tool.
Okay. Yeah, so when building a database, I see that you first need to have two very important prerequisites before you start building it. You briefly mentioned it on the framework, but I will mention it again because I think it's important. The first most important thing is to know who your ideal client profile is, and that we covered on the previous webinar. So without knowing who you want to go after and what are the ideal companies and contacts in that regards, you cannot build a database successfully. And the other part is what data you need to collect for your database. So based on, for example, which channels you're going to use for your outreach campaign, you can determine like what data you need for the contacts. If you're doing cold calling, then you need to collect the people phone numbers. If you're doing email outreach, then you definitely need the emails. If you're doing LinkedIn, then the LinkedIn URLs. On the company level as well, if you want to measure their financial results, you need to collect the revenue of the companies, or ultimately, depending on what data you want to measure at the end of your outreach campaign, you can determine what data you need to collect. So if you want to compare the results between how different target audiences from different countries will react to the messages, then you need to collect the location of the contact so you can make a comparison. Or if you, I don't know, want to measure the data based on different industry, you need to collect that data. But the important thing is that those two factors will determine how you're building the database later on. So the ICP research and the information you want to collect on a company level and on a person level. So the whole database building process, I separated into 4 main steps, although there can be some overlapping between each of them or some other steps in between, but generally I try to separate them in 4 different steps, and with that include different tools that can be used in each step so that that step can be automated. So the 4 main steps are first, prospecting. As you said before, once we know the ICP or who our client profile is, we need to find those contacts or those companies somewhere. So once we find them, we need to find a way how to put them into a format that we can use later on. So either a Google spreadsheet or put them into the CRM or some other kind of document that can be useful for us. Then once we build the list, we need to enrich the list with some of the data that we are missing or some of the data that we need to do the outreach. As I said, if you're going for cold calling, then you need to have to enrich the database with phone numbers or emails if we do email outreach and so on. And the last part is verification or the quality control, so that you make sure that everything that you use is verified and in high quality, so that you don't do damage to your campaign later on. So there are a lot of tools that can cover all of these processes. In this picture, I have only a few for each step, but we will go deeper into each one of these steps, and I will separate each step into then a more in-depth categories. And for each category, I will show you a few tools that can automate the process. So
I see. So a very quick question, because I see a lot of logos here. I don't recognize some of these, but there are a lot of that I don't know. So in the database building tools world, it's 4 categories. One is the prospecting, then it's the scraping, then it's the enrichment, and then it's the verification, right?
Yes, that's right.
Just a short note, Natasha. I can see your screen with the PowerPoint presentation. If you're doing a slide, then you're probably sharing the wrong screen. If you're just showing
yeah, I'm on the PowerPoint presentation because I'll switch to Google Chrome.
Okay, so that's why you're not sharing as a full screen presentation, just to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So going to the next step, into the data prospecting, I also separated it into 4 main categories, and I'll show you a few examples of each. So, but first, before I get to that part, I want to mention that we know who our ideal client profile is, and now we need to find those people or companies somewhere. As you said, sometimes LinkedIn cannot be the best tool to find that. We mentioned that LinkedIn is probably the best B2B self-updating database that currently has over 1 billion users at the moment. So it means that majority of our contacts and companies will be there, but there will be some cases where actually because of some of the disadvantages that LinkedIn or Sales Navigator has, we need to go for some alternative data sources. In the example that you shared, like if we're going for small yoga studios or some local bars or restaurants or some local dentists or some small companies, usually they are not that much present on LinkedIn. Because they work into the B2C world, so LinkedIn is not the perfect social network for them, and they use different kind of channels. And in that case, we need to go for some alternative sources. On the other end, LinkedIn has, we mentioned this on the previous webinar, but LinkedIn has some predefined filtering options. So not always we can find all of the niche industries or niche segments that we want to go after. For example, we had a lot of marketing agencies that are targeting e-commerce companies, and on LinkedIn, there is no e-commerce industry in particular. So what we always do is we need to go to the retail industry, broader, and then within the retail industry to requalify each company, whether they're an e-commerce store or they're just a physical store, and by that going after our perfect target audience. And this, of course, we are looking for ways how to speed up this process instead of checking each company manually. On the other end, some countries or different countries use LinkedIn in a different extent. So for some countries, we cannot find that much users as we can find for others. For example, USA or UK or I don't know, majority of Western Europe, they use LinkedIn, but not all of the countries use it into the same extent. And in those cases, we go to the alternative data sources. So as you said, for some local companies, smaller ones, Yellow Pages or Google Maps can be a good source to find these companies and prospects. And for example, if we are looking for hotels, not every hotel will be on LinkedIn, but Booking.com is a perfect platform where you can find a list of all hotels worldwide that can be a perfect source for your database. Another potential source can be accelerators and incubators, which all of them usually have a list of all of the startups that are part of that incubator or accelerator. And you can easily find those startups with categorization of the industry they are in, or even the revenue they have, the funding stage they're in. So it's a perfect way to find those kind of companies. Events are also a very good potential source, although it's not really the first thing that will come on our mind. But if we find an event where our target audience is attending, we can easily find the exhibitors list or attendees list, and actually have a good source for our contacts there. Or even it can be a good channel to reach out to them, and we will have a perfect icebreaker related to the event, so we can start the conversation easily. Then job platforms. Even with the job platforms, the good thing is that it's not just a good source to find some companies and data, but it's intent-based data. It means that those companies already published a job ad for some particular service. And if that's the service that you're offering, you can actually reach out to companies that have currently the need that you can solve for them. So it's not just a source for finding potential clients, but it's a good reason why to reach out to them, and it's a good intention-based outreach at the end of the day. So I'll stop here. There are many more other platforms like this, but you
Yeah,
get
I
the
see a
idea.
lots of logos here. There are like
Yeah,
more than
yeah,
20, 30 providers, and I think that nowadays it's getting crowded. There are like
yeah,
new
that's true.
automation tool for data prospecting, for lead generation every day popping up, and it's quite hard to keep track of everybody.
Exactly, that's right. And when I was doing the research, there were, I don't know, I had to go through hundreds of them. So I really try to pick the ones that are like most known, so that everyone can recognize and find some tool that can help them into the process of building the database. So I'll go very briefly to the other parts, and then I'll start showing examples. Besides the other data sources, we have paid databases. So usually these are platforms or websites that are providing data for in exchange of some amount of money or some subscription based. And usually this provides some niche data, like, I don't know, financial information for some of the companies, or phone numbers of the contacts. Or a very good example, and I will share this one, is StoreLeads. It is a platform we discovered recently, and as I said, we had a lot of companies that are targeting e-commerce stores, and on LinkedIn we couldn't find them like directly. And StoreLeads is a perfect platform where there are millions of e-commerce stores, which you can filter out through different technologies they use, through the stage they're in, size, and so on. And it's really one place where you can find all the e-commerce stores in one place. So you don't need to go through different sources, but with some, I don't know, monthly subscription, you can get a list of millions of e-commerce stores. The next part are data platforms, and I will stay a little bit here to show you a few examples. So these platforms usually work in a similar way to LinkedIn. Like, you can put some kind of filtering options in terms of the company qualification criteria, and also on the contact side. And then they list a list of companies or prospects that then you can, from them, you can start building a database. So I will show you an example of these first 5. So LinkedIn, Apollo, Crunchbase, Lucia, and Murena. And we can compare like what kind of data they provided me, and what's the difference between them, and how you can actually use them. So for this example, I used the criteria for the companies. So I'm looking for software, actually SaaS companies in the United States, startups which have received some funding in the last few years and have revenue above $5 million. So
Nice.
as you can see, yeah, on LinkedIn, initially I got around 30,000 results. But then, because I'm looking for SaaS providers only, and we don't have that industry on LinkedIn, so that's one of the examples that I shared before. I tried to use some Boolean search to narrow them down to show me some more relevant companies. So at this point, I got to 1.5 thousand results, which narrowed down the search. But again, I don't have the information of what was the funding. So if they have received any funding through their process of working, and I don't have the information of the year where they are founded, because I wanted, I didn't mention that, startups in USA that are founded in the last 5 years with some funding that are SaaS and have above 5 million in revenue. So on LinkedIn, there is an option. If I go here, I can see funding events in the past 12 months. But as you can see, if I click on it, I won't get any results, because I think that not all of the companies have that kind of information on LinkedIn. So the filtering doesn't show any of them. And in these cases, we can use other alternatives that will give us like more narrowed companies in a more straightforward way. So I'll show you Apollo. I did edit the same criteria. Here we have the criteria on the funding. We can even pick in which stage of funding they are. We can pick when the company was founded. So the whole process is pretty straightforward. And what was interesting here, it was that it has some AI filters. And I used this filter and I told him, I want you to mark every company on the list that you can consider that it's a SaaS, because again, in the industry level, I added software development. I can see it right now, but it's software development, actually computer software.
Here is it.
Yeah. And with the AI filter, I told him mark everything that's SaaS. So it immediately put me an additional column, and it marked all of the companies that are SaaS through the help of AI. And I spent a seconds, while if we're going here one by one, it will take hours or days. Although the bad side, I got only 4 results. So it's very niche, it's a lot of filtering, but with all of the criteria that I had, I can't expect that much. However, it provided only 4 results. The other thing here, which is as a benefit, is that you can export this list easily, compared to Sales Navigator, where you cannot export them directly from here. So you can save them here, or you need to use different tools, which I'll show later, that can help you to export this data. But on Apollo and similar platforms, you can use them also to export the data. And sometimes during that part, they're even enriching the data with some additional information. Then here I have Lusha, pretty much similar to Apollo. And here I got 7 results, which is interesting. So a little bit more than Apollo, but it works in pretty similar way. And as I mentioned here, these platforms, they not only just give you the data, but you can use them also to enrich the data, or even in the case of Apollo and Lusha, you can engage with the prospect. So they can serve as an automation tool, not just as a data provider. I have Muraena here. This is also one tool that we started recently using it. And it's a platform that has more than, I don't know, it has millions of data available there. And the interesting part here is that you don't need to manually enter all of these filters, but it has AI option where you can just type the target audience that you're looking for, and it automatically creates all of these filters. Now, I've already done the process, but just to give you the point. However, I didn't have any filtering options on the revenue here. So probably that's why I got to a little bit more companies compared to the others. So it means that as much criteria as we had, we have less results. But the idea is that the process saves time rather than checking each company manually and making sure that they fit all of the criteria. And the last one that I show is Crunchbase. So Crunchbase is a really good platform if you are looking for especially for the financial information, like funding rounds, the revenue of the companies, which stage of the funding they are, and so on. So adding all of these criteria, and here as well, I just, so right now it disappeared, but I just typed the criteria that I wanted to see. So it was like in a sentence, I want US-based startups founded in this years with that funding, and it gave me this information. In addition, here you can add like if you have some missing data, I just added a column. I didn't have the website initially, so I went to add a column and I picked from the options that I want to enrich.
That is available.
Yes, and then it immediately give me some additional information. Again, you can export this data, you can get contacts as well here, but I think that Crunchbase primary focus is more on the companies. So in order to get contacts, you need to have some of the more advanced subscriptions. So I stayed at this part with the companies only. So the point here is to show you how different data providers can work. Although using similar criteria and similar filtering options, they provide different results, but maybe a combination of multiple of these can do the trick and actually get you easily to the companies that you're looking for. Because again, if we check each of these companies that is listed here, it will take a lot of time, while using multiple sources with more niche data can actually save us a lot of time. So that
Yeah,
was the example.
and also I wanted to ask Nacha if you can open the slides, because I saw you were ready to open the slide that while.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
all of these logos are actually companies that they can provide data on type of companies. And
Yes.
now, depending on whether it's Lusha, whether it's Sales Navigator, depends on what kind of data you need, and also what's your target audience. Because as I said, yoga centers on LinkedIn is not going to be a lot of data, but that's why there are so many data platforms out there, like data sources, that it's really even harder now to figure out which data source to use, or actually, as you said, try multiple data sources, as you currently did. You're like, I have this problem. I tried it on 4 different platforms in order to see which gonna give me the best data. And some of them are paid, some of them are free, some of them have a lot more information, some of them are part of a bigger solution. But based on these logos that I've seen here and the examples, I mean, with AI and automation, you can get a lot of data prospecting. And I see that even in some of the tools, I mean, 21st century, they are incorporating the AI as a part of their systems or as a part of their solution.
Yes, yes. And ultimately, some of them even can cover like multiple processes of this process actually. So like Apollo, for example, it's not just providing data, but can help you with the outreach part as well. So some of them have integrated like email verification tools. So it's really different sets of functionalities they provide. And these are just a few examples, like there were many more similar to this.
Databases.
Yeah. And the last part here are the intent data providers. So I categorize them separately from the others because besides like giving you a list of contacts or companies like the other platforms do, this actually give you some information of the buyer signals. So they're analyzing the user behavior, and based on that, they're giving you some information. So I just have one example here to show. And for example, there's tech.com. So this platform can give you intent-based data based on the technology that the companies are using. So if you remember on the previous webinar, we were talking about one of our clients who was targeting software companies that are using AWS, so Amazon Web Services. And on LinkedIn, when we added this criteria, we only had like 20 results in total. So here, when I added the same criteria that I used on LinkedIn, I have over 3,000 companies that actually are using this technology. And knowing that they use this, my outreach then can be more personalized towards these companies and offering the solution that can solve their issues. Of course, you need to pay or to have credits in order to reveal all of the information. I just revealed a few just to show the example. But the thing is that these intent-based data providers, they go one step further, and they are giving you some more detailed data that you can use for more personalized outreach. For example, I don't know, RB2B is giving you information based on the visitors on your website. So what's their behavior there, and revealing their contact information, so you can, based on their behavior on your website, you can reach out to them with a more personalized way. Some of them track the social activity of the contacts, how they react on social media, to which posts, what they comment, and so on. So they provide you some signals based on that, but the idea is that it's more personalized and more focused compared to generally just putting filters on the data platforms.
I see.
Yeah. So do you have some questions or can I move to the next?
No, no. I think that we're gonna leave all the questions at the end, Natasha, because I wanted to have a really nice structure. Like, okay, this is the data prospecting. Now we need to go to part 2, part 3, and then we can look at the questions at the end.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. So go to data scraping. So now that we have these lists, we need to put them, as I said, into a spreadsheet, an Excel, Google Doc, CRM, whatever it is. And in some cases, like, I don't know, for example, Apollo or Lucia, they already had the option for you to download the list. So you can easily have already the database ready for you. But some of them, like LinkedIn, you cannot download the list directly. And in those cases, you need some tools in order to take the data into some format that you can use later on or enrich from that point. Or even if we're talking about Google Maps, as we said before, if you start copying and pasting each company from Google Maps, that's a time-consuming process. But there are tools that can scrape this process and within seconds give you a list of all of the information that are available over there. So before I go to showing examples, just to mention that these tools, they are different. Some of them are platforms, some of them are softwares, some of them are just extensions, but they have the same purpose at the end of the day. They go to the website that you want to take the information from, and they transfer it into some document or some file that you can locally then use. So in terms of the scraping of first, let me show you for Google Maps one example. I have SOCLIDS here, and with this scraper or this tool, I just typed that I want to look for dentists in London, and it give me within seconds a list of them. So I will show you how the list looks like. And yeah, I only told him to give me 10 companies just for the example, but it already enriched them with the phone number, with their website, the company name, address, or their precise location, and
Nice.
so on. So immediately I got like pre-built to some extent database that I can start building on top of this. It also had an option to search for the emails. I didn't use it at this time, but it can enrich the data to that extent as well. And as you can see, this tool, besides Google Scraper, it had like other social media,
A lot
Facebook,
of different scrapers.
yeah. And most of them that I showed here like work in the similar way. Some of them can scrape Yellow Pages or Amazon as well, but you get the idea of what's the point here. So I want to stick now to LinkedIn because that's usually the most common one that we use. And for this example, I prepared a list of contacts. So I used the same search from before with the SaaS providers in USA, but I looked for the leads here. I looked for the general decision makers like CEOs, managing directors, founders, and so on. And I built a list of only 50 so that I can keep it simple. So one of the tools that we very often use to scrape data from LinkedIn is Texao. So this is a platform where you can pick from different automations. Here again, besides LinkedIn, it can scrape data from different sources like websites or YouTube or Twitter or whatever. In this case, I'll show you just for Sales Navigator, but it can be used in the same way. So for this particular example, I went to Sales Navigator automation tools and I typed leads because I have a leads list and I want to download or scrape the leads list. I used this one in particular. I'm just going to show you the options, but I already have the results ready. So you can use a single input, so a link from Sales Navigator. You can use a spreadsheet, or you can use a CSV file. The interesting part is if you use a spreadsheet, you can give it like directions that whenever a new row is put on the spreadsheet, the automation tool can automatically go back and do the same process again from this spreadsheet. So I used this one and I just added the link from Sales Navigator. I told him how much of the contacts I want to be done, and then I clicked run. So here I'll show you the results that I got to save time. This is done, by the way, within, I don't know, seconds or let's say a few minutes, but that's all. So immediately I got all of this contacts information, first name, last name, full name, LinkedIn URL, location, company name, job title, what degree of connection we are with them, how long they're in the company, on their position, and so on. There were even many more rows to this, but I deleted them or columns, because I didn't need them at this point. This is just to show you how within minutes I got a list of all 53 contacts with all of this information. And yeah, this is just one tool that can do this. I did the same with Phantom Booster, which is another scraper, and it works pretty similar to Texao. So you have different platforms where you can scrape from. They can even enrich the data and even engage with the leads. I went to Sales Navigator scrapers, and the same list I pulled it out. And what is interesting, it gave me almost the same rows, the same columns between the two. So it pretty much gave me the same outcome if I compare them both. So I used the list from Texao here. And besides this, these are like platforms. Texao even has a desktop application that is running in the background. But besides this, there are other tools like extensions that you can use directly here on LinkedIn. For example, Scroop or Prospeo. And in these cases, you either just select the contacts, or sometimes you don't even need to select the contacts. But once you have the search, you can just click on export, and then you get information like this. So it leads you to the platform itself, and again, you have the same results at the end. If I download this file, I want to show you one more thing, that what's different from the other two. Here, besides the normal information from the profile, this tool also tried to find their email addresses. Let me see where they were. So here, and even not just the email addresses, but the status of their email, whether it's valid or not. So that's how it works. Prospeo worked in a similar way. I used the tool, I just click on the button, and it gave me a CSV file, which is ready to download, and with also status of the emails, because it enriched it with emails on the spot. So yeah, that's about the LinkedIn scraping, and how from one basic LinkedIn search, you can get to a list of contacts or companies within seconds. Now, going back to this, yeah, just to mention that besides these scrapers that scrape like information from social media, Google Maps or LinkedIn or whatever, there are other web scrapers that can scrape any website that you are opening. Like, I don't know, I tried Web Robots, which, for example, I was using one event list of attendees, and scrolling through all of the attendees and opening each one of them was really time consuming. So with Web Robots, what I did is just click the extension, and it immediately like pulled me a list of all the attendees from the event into a spreadsheet. So this can scrape like basically any website out there. I'm not going to go into details because I want to move to the next. So once we have the list, then, as I mentioned before, we need to decide what other information we need here besides the ones that we already have. Okay, so I'll move here. In my case, in the list that I got, I had most of the information about the companies and the prospects, but I didn't have the website. So the data that Texao gave me was up to this point, and I didn't have the website of the companies. And the website was really important for me because I needed the domains of the companies in order to find the emails of these prospects later on. So then it comes to the part where we need enrichment tools. So from the data that you have, you can find different tools that, depending on what you have and what you need, can give you different results. So you can have like the list of the company names, and then there are tools that can help you find the contacts. Or you have just the LinkedIn URLs of the prospects, and it can give you information of the companies from there, or the emails and so on. Or you can have just emails, and from the emails it can provide you all details about the contacts and so on. There was even one tool that I found which was actually enriching the data based on the gender. And we had this situation before a lot of times when we were targeting, for example, women-led startups, and the whole process we've done was manual, checking whether the owner is a male or a female and adding it to the list. And this tool can actually very easily, within seconds, classify the contacts based on their name, whether they're a male or a female. So they can do enrichment in different ways. So I will just show one example here regarding the website. I used Clay. So Clay is a famous tool for data enrichment. And what I've done is just I uploaded this list that I initially had here. And all of the data was transferred here. So what I've done is I went to the next column and I told the tool to enrich the data with the website. So on Clay, the interesting part is that you can pick which tool it will
Which
use
source?
to, yes, to do the enrichment. I used Clearbit in my case. So as you can see, it gives me some of the information, not all of them, but I got some of the websites that initially I didn't have any of them. So I transferred them all here. I didn't bother to find more, but if you are not happy with this, you can use a different tool from Clay to enrich it further, or you can use a completely different tool outside of Clay that can help you with the ones that are missing. But just for this example, I stayed to where I was because that was enough. Another part is, and actually one of the most important information that we are usually lacking into our databases and where we spend the most time is finding the prospect's emails. In a similar way, I've used several tools to find this prospect's email. I use the same example. So I use the same data, even though I didn't have the website for some of them, because I wanted to see what will come out of it, whether it will be based just on this column or the whole information that I have from the database. And here I have the results from 5 different tools and what kind of emails it provided. I'll show you first the example of Clay again, because I'm here. So on Clay, the interesting part is when I set the automation to enrich it in the same way for the emails, it works on a waterfall method. So it uses different tools and it goes one by one until it finds the email, or at the end, if it cannot find it through all tools, then it appears that it cannot be found. So it used multiple different emails, and I got at the end this list of emails for some of the contacts. Here, I ordered them like in the order of which of these tools provided me with the most emails. So out of 53 contacts, Find Email gave me 40, Clay gave me 38, Email Better Contact provided me 36, Prospeo provided me 25, and I used Texao as well, which provided me 11. So my conclusion was that Texao is more focused on the scraping rather than enriching. And probably I won't use it for this part in the future. But some of these tools that enrich the data, they also gave me information immediately whether the email is valid or not. So for example, Better Contact, it provided me with like the outcomes for each email, whether it's deliverable, whether it's scheduled, whether it's safety to use. So the red means risky, the green one is okay, the gray ones it couldn't find. So from different tools, I actually managed to find different data. Now, of course, that when checking these emails, I found that some of them gave me an email with a different domain, which probably gives me some suspicion whether the email is correct or not, or some of them didn't give me anything at all. So this process, that's why it needs to be validated and verified further on, but it gives me a very fast way to find, in this case, 80% of the emails. Not all of them will be okay, but even if I have 50% of the emails at the end of the day, it will save me a lot of time compared to if I'm doing this process manually.
And I'm curious, Natasha, a side question, because you're actually taking the same list and sending it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 email providers.
Yeah.
What happens when both give you a different email? So who's right in this case? I see row 2 has 3 different email options.
Yes, so I believe that part, first of all, we can verify the emails through tools. I will show that in a second. But on the other end, I believe that there should be some manual qualification here, where you need to check like what's the actual website of the company and the company name, and determine which email will be the right one. In this case, for example, in row 2, this went with unidentified.net, probably because I have here unidentified. And that's why it provided me this. So I'm sure that these are not correct, and I need to see which one of these is actually a better fit for me. So this is for Business Council, and I don't think that I had, actually it was for Business Council, the company. So probably this is the right one for me. Yeah, this process first with verification of the emails, we can automate it to some degree, but again, then probably we need to use some manual qualification and making sure that these are the right ones. And the last step from here, I did just that. I put the emails to a verification tool. At this step, I didn't manually check them or excluded them or anything. I just cleaned the emails from the duplication and included all of them that I get from all 5 tools. And I ended up with 80 or 83 emails that later on I checked through 5 different verification tools. So how these tools work and helping us to ensure a good quality of the email addresses, I will show just one example, but most of them work in the similar way. You need to upload the CSV file, map the columns, like where is the email address, or if you have some extra columns in there, and then it gives you a list of the emails and what's their status. So I'll show you Bulk Verify. This is a tool that we're using like for many years, and it's pretty simple to use. You can use Quick Verify, just like copy pasting individual emails and it gives you the status of it, or you can use the Bulk Verify. I used that option because I was using a CSV file. So, oops, sorry, I need to upload it first. Just a second until it gets back. Yeah, so I need to choose the file. Yeah, I have the file here only with the emails. Then I click on import. And then it starts uploading. Once it's uploaded, I just need to click the button to start running. And at the end, I got this information. So how many emails passed, failed, or were unknown. Usually, most of the tools categorize the emails into 3 segments, whether they're passed, whether they're failed, or whether they're unknown. They can be named differently. We can see in the example that some of them call this deliverable, some of them call this failed, some of them undeliverable, but it doesn't matter. The logic is the same. And then I just exported the emails. I exported the full list because I wanted all of the statuses, but you can export like each individual status. If you only want the past emails so that you can immediately start using them, you can just export this, or alternatively, you can export them. So I added here the information of all 5 verification tools, which are Bulk Verifier, Emailable, Emails Checker, Email List Validation, and Reun. And I got similar results to most of them. I just mark here like one, let's say, weird scenario where most of these tools told me that this email or these 2 emails were passed or delivered, while the third one actually showed me undeliverable. And I've noticed that in the third one, I had like the most differences compared to the others, but the other 4 provided me with very similar results at the end of the day. So from here, you can decide whether you can use only the past ones or the valid ones, or you can use the past and the unknown ones. And in some cases, some of these tools, besides the status, they provide you with like a more detailed reason why this email is unknown or why it's passed and so on, so that you can decide if this is still safe to use or you cannot use it. So here, if I compare them all, these ones that said risky, I wouldn't use them, but the rest maybe I will use, but this is how the process goes. And this is the layer when it gets to actually making sure that the emails are correct. So generally, that was the whole process, starting from the prospecting to the verification through the use of different tools across the way. Of course, you can use a combination of multiple. You can use automate some parts only of the process and then do some manual work on the others. But that's how it goes. And I believe, Dancho, you will actually work a little bit on how this can be smoothen up a bit and how you can combine everything into one. So would you like to share the next part with us?
Yeah, I saw a lot of tools, Natasha, and I've realized that it's getting complicated. Not just by the presentation, but when I was looking at your slides, like all these tools in regards to database, prospecting, scraping, enrichment, verification, it becomes really hard to figure out which tools are in which scenario, in which data source to be used or data platform for what client or what kind of need that you actually have. So actually, maybe that's why I wanted to focus now on the processes, because there are too many tools. It's even harder to figure out which tool is good for you. So the last part that we wanted to cover was actually the no-code automation and the AI steps. So before I dive into this ugly handwriting of mine, I just wanted to make a step back where I'm saying it's easy to take a lot of tools, but the hard part is to figure out which series of tools or which set of tools are actually needed in your particular case for your business. And this is usually the harder part because these tools are alive now. In a year, there's going to be 1,000 new tools, and it's harder to keep up of all the new tools that are happening. But if you have good processes in place, well, then you can just think whether this tool can be replaced by this tool or if something new tool that comes in future. So I actually had 3 or 4 steps process on how you can set up the outreach process. And it starts first with, well, you need to map out. It's like, what's your outreach process? I just found this drawing when we were sharing it either with Natasha or in BizB, but it's like, well, this is the ICP, and then this is how we build the database, and then this is how we do building in the CRM, and then this is how we do the outreach, and then how it goes through LinkedIn outreach, and how it goes to email outreach. So in short, is that step one in any automation process is that you need manually. Like just put a piece of paper and I'm like, okay, in my company, this is how it works. And at BizB, I mean, since we do it for multiple clients, we need to map out. It's like, what is the core before thinking of like automations and AI and non-AI and agents? We're like, well, if it was a human, what is it supposed to do? And once we have this mapped out, then we can start saying, well, how can we start automating or how can we use AI on top of this? So there are a lot of tools on, I mean, this is handwritten, obviously, but there are a lot of tools of how you can manually map out the outreach process. There are like Lucidcharts, Miro, Elements, Canva, Draw.io, handwritten even. But the reason is that you cannot automate the process until you don't know what is the process. And I actually have here a few processes to show. I actually took the BizB process of like, well, it's LinkedIn. Let's do the kickoff, optimizing the profile, setting up the messaging, setting up the tech, doing the execution, doing the nurture. And I think I have this open somewhere. So this is a simple LinkedIn process standardization. And as you can see, it's simple, right? Well, then in each of it, it's actually a process on its own. So if you look at like, this is how you can do the process, this is how you can do the messaging, this is how you can do the execution of the campaign. And I won't go into details, but every process usually have an input, what's the entry, then what's the transformation, and then what's the output. So if it's a profile optimization, you take this, you do this, you get this. And I'm not going to go into all of them because it's a detailed process, but the point I wanted to make here is that if you want to go toward automation, you have to first have it written on a piece of paper or ideally with any tool that you can write it. Now that that is taken care of, we can start looking at some tools. I mean, Natasha showed at least, what, 50 tools just in the slides, and she had to go over like hundreds of different tools. But there's no point in entering into the tools until you know your process, and then you can see how you can use tools for some of the process. Last month, when Natasha was talking about tools in the ICP, we were like, well, you can use, I have no idea how to pronounce it. Lizer, Clay, Lemist for figuring out the ICP. Then you need to start building the database, which Natasha made like 200 tools here. Like You can use for scrapers, Sales Navigators, then Apollo, then Snovio, use a Google Sheet to update, and Lasha and Crunchbase and Murena. I think Nachi actually showed the majority of these tools. And once you add them into a database, then you can take them to a CRM, whether it's HubSpot, Pipedrive, Salesforce, or any other CRM. Only then you can move it toward the outreach process, which is check the emails, go through HeyReach, or going through MeetOffert or any other tool. And I think that this is where Natasha was actually showing how efficient tools can be. But I'm more focused on the processes rather than the tools. For me, it was actually important to go a step back to know what is the exact process. So then when we are looking at all these tools from different aspects, you can then start playing the puzzle. Is like, if I have this process like in the database, I'm going to use Sales Navigator, which is going to put it into a Google Sheet. Then I'm going to use the Crunchbase to enrich the spreadsheet. And Natasha, it's even divided this database into even subcategories. It's like, is it a scrapping? Is it a data enrichment? Is it a data verification? So depending on your needs into your process, you need to see which tools you need to use. Now, the only concern that I have, or actually disadvantage of all this, is that it's not a one solution fit all. And I've put it here with red that it does requires a lot of manual transfer and qualification. So you take some data from Clay, you put it into Google Sheet, and then you copy it, and then you put it to Apollo, and then you get some enrichment in place. And after the enrichment, then you have to put it into Muraena in order to get some more data, and then it goes to verification. And that's the next step in the automation process. How can these tools start talking with each other? Is like, how can Clay add the Google Sheet to Taste Novio, and then we are actually removing the manual transfer from a tool to tool. And that's the automated flows. Usually it's pretty simple. I mean, Zapier is around for a decade or more already. Texao and Akshay even showed it as an example. The IFTTT, if then something, I don't even remember. But here is a single flow automation where we talk with different tools. I actually have this opened, but this tool, this automation is what I'm doing when someone buys Sweet Leads. It's like, if I see a new payment on Stripe, then I see a Facebook conversion, which is then filtered an email, and then I'm taking to HubSpot to create an account, and then I'm taking them to MailChimp to add or update a subscriber. So as you can see, in a different world, I need to go manually to Stripe, and then I need to go manually to Facebook. This was based on Facebook ads. So if someone buys, I need to update on the event that someone actually bought, so Facebook will learn. And then I need to go to Zap to actually send them the book. And then I need to go to the email to send them an email. And then I need to go to the HubSpot. And this is a nice automated flow where multiple tools are communicating with each other. And it's a sequential waterfall approach. The other one was something that it's doing from LinkedIn, but the reason I took is that it takes LinkedIn, it takes Sales Navigator, it gets HubSpot. And I think I even had something where, for example, this was on active pieces. No, I'm still not there to show you that part. But the problem here, it is very straightforward process. It's like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And the problem is not every time it's that simple. So then we go to step 4, where we can start adding more complexity to the automation. In this case, I have a Sales Navigator that is going to Sales Navigator scrapper that is collecting the leads that Natasha showed. Then I'm taking it to ChatGPT in order to see whether the prospects are good or not. And then I'm adding them to a Google Sheet. And then Snovio is picking it up in order to find the emails. And once I find the emails, I'm taking them to an email verifier in order to see if the email is correct or not. And only then I'm actually updating it into a spreadsheet. And there are some really nice platforms in this area, like Make.com is really popular. Active Pieces is like AI first or no-code automation. The N8N, which is a platform that even goes toward the agent way of automation. And here, I just wanted to show you how it can work. So Here, I actually made it a Stripe automation if someone buys the book. So this was a different automation where I'm using SendFox. I'm sending it to HubSpot. If the payment is less than €5, it's a Kindle. If it's less than 15, then it's an audio. So I can now add multiple directions and then send them. If it's less than €5, then it's the Kindle version. Send them an email about the Kindle. Or if it's less than 15, then it's the audiobook. Then send them a different email. And at these stages, I can do now the AI angle. So it's not just a straight process. It can be divided to different directions. But now I can start saying, well, I need ChatGPT here, and I need to get some additional validation qualification inside the process rather than, a human copying it, qualifying, as not just said, check if it's a male or female. So this kind of automation combines all the tools that you need within the single process. I also have another one. We use this Zapier. This was more the sequential one, but this is the one that I wanted to share now because this is a LinkedIn Sales Navigator scraper that we combined, and I'm actually going to run it so you'll see how it works and how it takes so many tools and it integrates into one specific automation.
So basically, everything that I just shared is put into one platform that can automate the whole process without going from one tool to another.
Exactly, Natasha. And when I saw all the additional tools that you showed, I was like, oof, I need to now upgrade this so I can include a bit more of the other tools that you've recommended. But once you get yourself more familiar with Make or any other automation tool, the process is pretty straightforward. And I wanted to run it now so you can see how it goes, but first to explain it. So what we're doing is run an actor. This means that take an automation, run, okay, it's not very user-friendly for this, but once you set it up, it's very easy. You put the Sales Navigator filter here, and that's it. I actually set up, because I'm doing another project with professors, I'm like, I need all the professors with first and second degree from Macedonia, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Albania. And I'm taking this link. And all I need to do is paste it here. Actually, I'm going to paste it because I have no idea which link is there. So there you go. That's it. That's all the work that we need to do. So as long as you know what you're doing with the filter, everything from this point onward should be automated. So what it does is that Apify is like, you know what? I have a Sales Navigator scraper. Here is it. I'm on Apify now. So this LinkedIn Sales Navigator scraper will do all the scraping. Let me find some previous run. Okay, here is 25. So I immediately get them as a spreadsheet with all the links that I wanted and that I need. But the magic is not that. The magic is actually to continue. So once you get that, I want you to put into a Google spreadsheet. So here is a spreadsheet. It's empty. I'm like, fill it here so I can have control over the process. And once that, I want to prevent the unsuccessful bundles. So I'm using aggregation of what data to collect. And then I'm like, okay, now what I want you to do is look at the roles that don't have an email. And on those, I want you to take out the domain and start looking for emails. And emails, this is Novio, so what Natasha showed, and it's very simple. Well, give me the first name, the last name, and the domain, which we get from here. I can give you the email. But now, if I get the email, if they cannot find the emails Novio, I need to be able to put it as a no found email. If they find the email, then, well, I want to verify it. I want to take the bulk mail checker that Natasha just showed, and I want to run, is this email accurate or not? And this is all no code. So this is pretty automated process. And if it verifies, tell me that it's verified. If it doesn't verify, tell me it's not verified. So I wanted to run it once. Hopefully it's going to work. If not, I have an Excel as a backup to show how it works. But I want to present it first, so then you can see how it works, because once it runs, then you can play with it and you can modify and change it. Okay, so run once. I'm running. So now it's taking the Sales Navigator filters and it made the run. I should go now into the runs and see what is happening. Okay, it started a new Sales Navigator scrapper. It's pretty easy to see what is happening in real time. Like, is it working? Is it stuck? Is it? And this is in real time, so if it doesn't work, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to really show how it can start collecting. So it is building its own system. It starts going on LinkedIn. It logged in as Dan Chudimkov. He's going now on page 1 on the search, and in the input, I mean, this is still ongoing. I could have chosen. Okay, now I cannot show you. It's like start from page 2, and instead of page 2, I only need 50 leads only, or I need 100, or I need 150. And now make is actually waiting until this finishes. This doesn't start. So it's gonna be like I'm now scraping, so I can then start collecting the data. Let's see what's happening. Still nothing. Did I scare it off?
No.
Okay, error, timeout. So in between, I'll show you how it should look. If it works, it works. But the output that I'm expecting is similar to Natasha data, which was like, this is the first name, this is the last name, this is the job title, this is the headline, this is the summary. I can even see how many connections they have. Then I can see a lot of data about what's the company name, and these were all professors, what's their website, location, LinkedIn, are they my first connection or second connection? I even have their URLs, which I'm going to use it for different places. And I can understand if I need their picture to use something, I need their picture URL as well. And then these were more like, have I seen their profile before? Do I have a pending invitation? Do they have an unlocked account? Do they have a premium account, which is also used? And then Snovio comes in and it's like, oof, something happened. Based on this, these are the emails that I managed to find. And then Snovio is also trying to validate if they are correct or not. And then I'm sending them to Book Verify in order to tell me the one that Snovio found, did they pass or not? So in short, that's the process. In longed, it's recovered. Okay, lucky me.
Yeah.
So first one is timeout, then fetching profile 1 out of 25. It has some sleeping 5 to 30 seconds before it moving to the next account. So you don't want to be, and I can see the output in real time. It's like, okay, the second one doesn't have a website. That could be a big problem in any automation because, as Natasha said, unidentified, and it starts finding emails with the unidentified domain. But we can see all the data here. Is it pending invitation? Is it open profile background? So a lot of data. Is it saved? Is it unlocked? What's their summary and everything? And I can see in the log file in real time how many people have we identified. So I want to get to 5, 6 at least, so I can pause it. But so far, as you can see, it is collecting all the information that it needs. To go back to make.com, it's still waiting. Until we stop it or until I stop it the run, it's going to keep adding more and more prospects to the list. I think 6 are enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to abort this process, and you can see how much consumption it takes and everything. So I'm aborting this, and we can see it finished, it got it, takes to the spreadsheet, processing it, takes the rows, goes through the Snovio. One email has went, second has went, third, one is without email. So if email is not found here, if they don't have a website, just put it in the ignore tab, of course. So as you can see, it's finished. So
Yeah.
all we did is we come here and we set up the Sales Navigator filter. That's it. And as a result, we got a new populated spreadsheet. We have, okay, maybe they're too much bolded for my taste, but we have the first name, the last name, the professor, the title, the summary of the people, how many connections, what company websites, where they are, what they are, the URL that we were discussing. So this is all from the scrapping. And I put the red line in order to see like, okay, domain extract. This is actually made by here, get domain from URL. So this is now pre-populated by us. And then Snovio comes in, and Snovio is like, I found this email, I found this email, I couldn't find this one, and I found this one and this one. So if you see it, Snovio is saying, if you find it, test it. If you cannot, just tell me not found. So I would know that I can go to another automation. So going back to the spreadsheet. So Snovio is telling me these are the emails I was able to find and validate, but as Natasha said, I'm not trusting one tool. I'm like, can you now tell book verify what it says? And book verify, this is mixed, but book verify status is confirms what Snovio says, that those emails are really correct. So the address provided, the address provided, the address provided. Now, this is actually the no-code automation, where you have one tool that starts talking across multiple tools. And what I liked about this part now is that adding the AI at every angle can add better and better and better results. And let's play with it. I'll break the system now. Hopefully I have a backup. No, I'm actually going to create a backup because I rarely get everything right from the first time. So I'm just going to make a clone just in case. Presentation to show, save. So let's just imagine now that this tool should actually help us rather than, as Natasha said, you have a tool for scraping, put it into Excel, then find the domain, and then go to Snovio, and then send them to book verify in order to get the final state. You have one automation that covers everything. And now if I want to do even more, I'm like, okay, once Sales Navigator finished, I want to be able, hello, I want to use ChatGPT, OpenAI. So what are we doing with OpenAI? I don't know. There are so many things that are pre-populated on what you can do. I'm just going to make an API call. I need to connect it to the system. So I'm like, I'm just going to cut it here, put this guy here, and there you go. Now we have an automation in between. So I'm not going to touch on this because the only thing I wanted to do is have it here. Now, what we can do, and I can connect you to be in the process, and I'm going to make it like this so it's obvious. But now what we've actually made with the system is like Sales Navigator, based on this filter, scrape it. There are 4,500, and if I put the automation, it's going to scrape all of them. But now what I wanted to do here is before you put them into the database, actually it should be here. It shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Delete model, adding a new model, but I'm showing how easy it is to do it.
Yeah.
So if I remove the link here and just connect it, hello, save something URL, and then it continues here. The point I want to do here is that once it downloads the 50 roles or 5 roles, or in this case, 6 roles, I want to tell ChatGPT to manually qualify. Like I can say for each row, ChatGPT, I want to look at this name. Actually, this would be the role. I want you to actually look at Adrian Besimi, who is with this title and who is at this company with this website located here. That's a lot of good information. And I'll tell ChatGPT, can you search Adrian Besimi, which is a professor from Southeastern Europe University in North Macedonia, and tell me with a simple yes, no, is it a good fit for me? So what ChatGPT will be is going to search it online. Of course, you need to put in the prompt. My target audience are B2B high-ticket service providers. I am focused on companies with 50 to 500 employees and other stuff. And ChatGPT can individually look at each of the leads that you scraped in order to qualify if they're a good fit or not. So then when I'm like, now I need you to find emails, I just tell, find emails only the ones that are approved by ChatGPT. So in case we get here, this is a good lead. This is not a good lead, and this is not a good lead. So then I should start looking email only for this. Why should I look for this when they're actually a bad lead and it's a wastage? So that's only one example of how the AI can be put here. Then we can also add AI on multiple roles here, but I also wanted to show what Natasha actually inspired me, that you can put a layered effect. So we find a list, we qualify them, we put them into a spreadsheet, then we put them to, this is ugly. Here. I'm like, take it to Snovio, where if your job is to find an email, and if you find it, which is perfect, then you go through this process. But if you don't find it, I want you to do another lead. Take it to what other lead generation here do we have? Find that lead.
Yeah.
Search a lead.
No.
No, I'm not gonna set
Yeah,
it up
yeah.
currently. But if you cannot find it, and then once you find it, I need you to go and update the row in Google Spreadsheet. Okay, it's not gonna work, of course. But so what happens now is that once we have the Sales Navigator, we take it to Snovio. Snovio is gonna find half of them, which are gonna be verified and updated. But the other half, I'm taking them to find that lead, and I'm deleting this module. And then I'm again putting the verifying emails. Can I clone this? Yeah. Here. So very simple is that if you can find it on Snovio, continue to the process. If you cannot find it, take it to find that lead, verify it, and put it into a spreadsheet. Update. So what happens if you cannot again? If you cannot again, I can take it from find that lead. If I can put the same criteria here. What was the criteria here? If email exists, okay. So I'm saying if the email exists, basic operation on the email, save. So what happens now is that if the email exists, it's gonna take it through the book verify. If it doesn't, well, guess what? We're gonna put it even on a new lead generation tool. Lead gen, what else do they have? Lead agent, lead squared, lead table. I'm trying to find some from Natasha that presented, but there are too many.
Can use, I use Prospeo, for example, for find email.
Prospero, no.
No, Prospeo without the R.
Prospeo, get prospect they have. Outreach,
Okay, but never mind, yeah.
These are all lead generation, but I'll just take random one, get prospect, and then I'll be like, well, can you search? No, this is CRM. Anyhow, through the HTTPA, same as we did with the verification, I can connect any tool that has an API. So yes, I made a mess a bit, but my point is that this should actually be the no-code automation, where in this case, I'm like, Sales Navigator, I want you to scrape. Then I want you to put it into a database. ChatGPT, you need to check each individual of the lead and qualify based on criteria I'll tell you specifically. Only if it passes, add them to the spreadsheet. Take out the domain. Now that we are ready with the database building in Natasha world, like database scraping, then we're like, let's find the email now. Well, try with Synovio. If you find it, verify it, update. If you don't find it, go to find that lead and try again. Once you try again, if you find it, verify it and put it. If not, I can put try again. And then on the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth, and every time, I know that at least the emails that are here are all verified. So even if we have a mistake where, but it found an email, but it's wrong, I would rather fail it and bring it back into the loop for other tools to try rather than just have wrong emails.
Yeah, so basically you can use multiple tools at the same time that can enrich the whole process, and also you can put different conditions based on that, so you get the final point, which manually would take a lot of time.
Exactly, Natasha. And what I liked here is that we can take any tool from the hundreds of the ones that you had and just start plug and play. It's like I want you to find, and of course, depends on what kind of project are you having. If you had a yoga studio, I don't know why I keep using that bad example, is that in that case, I don't need a Sales Navigator. I needed the Google Maps scraper that you show. And then I'm like, then it's a different source from here. And from there, I can again take it to ChatGPT for qualification. And then I can keep putting them here. And it doesn't have to stop here because now I can go step left. And if you remember, I can add the module for figuring out the ICP, which we discussed last month. And it doesn't have to stop here because here we're ending up with the database. I can continue now with the outreach, whether it's through email, whether it's through LinkedIn. I can even go, oh, this is a nice angle. I'll show this one and I'll stop. So now that we have a verified email, I can be like, well, I need ChatGPT. Message an assistant. Mm.
Back.
I think that something happened.
Yeah, I got lost. My internet connection was lost.
Aha. So until where did you listen, Natasha, at least? So I know that maybe it was me.
Yeah, you said that you will go to ChatGPT for the message creation, and that's where I
Yes. Yes. And the point on the message creation is to ask a fully customized message. Like I want to create a fully custom message for George Dimitrov, who is chairman on the board, and he works at this company, faculty from Serbia, and I want to have a
Can you
fully.
just share your screen again? Because I
I'm not
cannot see.
sharing it. Okay,
No.
here it is. Can you see it now?
Yeah, yeah.
So I can take George Dimitrov, who is faculty from Bulgaria, and I can ask ChatGPT based on this data and this website of the company to create a fully customized email. Or I can ask to create a fully customized message, whether it's LinkedIn, email, phone, or whatever. So the point is that rather than going everything manual, the process is to utilize different steps. Um, it can get indefinitely complicated, and of course, not for every different project you're gonna need different leads, because even here, what we can do is we can apply beyond Sales Navigator multiple sources and then utilize. But that's why I'm going back to the presentation. It was important that for the first step was to figure out what do you want to do. And here we were presenting the database building because that's the topic of this webinar, but we can easily add automation on the ICP, or we can push them toward the CRM, or we can even push it further toward the outreach and LinkedIn. But unless you actually have a clear process of what you're wanting to do and actually which tools are going to help you at which stage, only then you can start considering how you can utilize multiple tools in a flow that can then start utilizing with qualification, with AI, or with multiple checks.
Perfect.
Oof,
Sounds
I
great.
got
Yeah,
exhausted.
we need to put this into a practical example and see how it works. But I really like it. And yeah, if
Yeah,
adding
well,
like more tools on top of this, if it can make the process way more faster and enriched, I think
yes.
that will
And
be the
now,
trick.
although this looks very complicated, it's a
Yeah.
setup, because then at the end of the day, all I need to do is come here and I'm like, I have a different target audience now. This is my new Sales Navigator filter here, and it starts again.
Yeah.
And it's gonna build it, verify it, qualify it, put it into a spreadsheet, merge it, take it to Snowvio, take it to find that lead, take it to different. All three should have a verification in order to get to that stage. So the building can be complicated, but as long as you know what you want to build, it should be straightforward.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, and I think that as you said, I mean, you went to the part of creating the messages, and I think that will be actually the topic for our next webinar. So yeah, we can
Yeah,
maybe invite everyone to attend the next webinar, which will be covering the B2B outreach content with automation and AI. So by then, probably you'll figure out how to do this process with Make and share it with us.
Yeah, actually, I think I already know it, but I'm keeping it for a different webinar. I think that would be the 27th of March, I think, Natasha, because it was the last Thursday of the month. And that's
Yes, that will be.
27th of March, where we're going to actually take similar approach as we did now with the database toward the how to actually create the content.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, I do have just one more slide, and I'm actually thinking
Okay,
about
sure.
opening the floor for questions and things. I mean, questions and answers. That was easy. You're more than welcome to connect with Natasha and with me. There are some QR codes. If you want a free copy of Sweet Leads, there is another QR code, and there is a third QR code if you want to get in touch or if you need any kind of help with the database building.
Perfect. And do we have some questions now from the attendees?
Let me just have a look at that part. I don't see a lot of questions, just I need to check on multiple platforms as we are streaming. Yeah, question number one is, are these tools that you showed, that Natasha showed, are expensive?
Uh, Depends. Some of them are, some of them are not. And one interesting thing, and that's something that we used in some of these tools that we're using. There is the platform AppSumo, where you can actually buy lifetime deals of some of these tools. And it's really affordable to pay once for that tool, and then you can use it forever for just one payment. Of course, the ones that provide like more premium features, they can be to some degree expensive, but it also depends like what you're trying to achieve and what part of the process it can actually change. So then you need to figure out if that can automate a whole process that will take a lot of manual time, then it's maybe even worth it to pay something more expensive and use it instead of going with manual work.
Got it. Got it. And another question was that on average, with the tools or with the flow, how much time you can save from manual toward the automated approach?
That depends, I would say, from requirement to requirement. We've seen, for example, in your case that for 7 contacts, it took seconds to build the list. Well, I would say that for 7 contacts, it maybe take with whole manual qualification and making sure you copy paste all of the data. So full manual process, it might take even half an hour or maybe more, depending on the qualification criteria. But in this case it was seconds. So depending like what degree of qualification you need, what parts of the process you will automate, it will depend, but it will save some time for sure.
I see. I see. I think those were the two questions that I had it here in the chat. Uh, well, let me just see if there is anything else. But if there isn't, I mean, Natasha, maybe we can start wrapping up. I see what is the time. Uh, I mean, I wanted to thank you very much, Natasha. I know it took you quite a lot of effort to do the research on the tools, on automation, and how they fit into the big picture of B2B lead generation. And also for everybody out there that are watching the webinar, I mean, you can reach out to Bisbee. We can even share the list of tools that were used in this webinar. We have it as a Word document, like it's not just the logos, but these are all the links that we actually showed and that we actually used in the research process. So then, of course, you can start playing with them, try to see which one is a better fit for you or not. And in closing, before I leave it to you, Natasha, I just wanted to say again, so next month we're gonna look at the AI and automation in the content creation part, which is more complicated because the database building, it is complicated as well, but then trying to figure out how to create messages, that's a different layer of conversation. So, Natasha, maybe last words from you before we close this webinar?
Everyone who joined this webinar, I hope that we're sharing something useful that everyone can use for their businesses and their processes. And yeah, I would like to invite everyone to join the next one, where we will be talking about the code.
So that's it for today, guys. Do have a great day and hope to see you everybody next month.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Stop sharing, ending of stream. Stream ended. Stop recording.